I'm very happy to introduce Mr. Sargsyan. He's the founder of the Armenian Center for American Studies. Welcome.
Thank you very much. This was a very interesting discussion. I want to thank Hovannes because he covered half of what I was going to say, especially the things about the United Nations. As you know, right now, I think in an hour or so, there will be a session of the United Nations, and most probably they will come out with another. It will not be, I suppose, it will not be a resolution. I think it will be a statement coming from the UN Security Council. You know that about a week ago, there was a statement from the United Nations Security Council about the processes in South Caucasus region, especially in Armenia and Azerbaijan. So they definitely, I think it's understood for everybody that they would come out with the statement more or less closer to all the statements that Minsk co-chairs are usually saying. So nothing new in that regard. I think it's going to be the same, but this initiative is made by the Security Council members and the Minsk co-chair countries. So let's wait a couple of hours to see what's happening in the United Nations. I wanted to cover a few things about the international coverage and what are the people talking about this issue, what are the experts talking about this issue. And I'm not talking about, definitely not Armenian experts and not Azerbaijani experts, but international experts. Big names, big experts in our region. I think there is a consensus, and everybody's talking about it, especially the experts, as I said, that this war was started, and this aggression was started by Azerbaijan, and there's a big support coming from Turkey. And I can give you a few names, and I can give you a few articles that you could read about very famous and very good professionals who are dealing with our region. So basically, all the international community know what is in fact happening. When I'm saying international community, I do mean experts for now. Just for this moment, I mean experts. And one of those experts were Tom Deval. He also wrote about it that Armenia has no reason to start a military campaign or a war. So a lot of experts are actually saying the same. I also wanted to talk about some statements coming from the United States, because the US is the superpower, and actually it's a very busy superpower right now with own elections, and everybody's involved in that elections, and that's very tough campaign, very tough process between Trump and between Biden. Biden made a statement. It was balanced, more or less balanced statement. Also, Trump said a couple of things about this situation. About 2 days after the war started, he said that we are working on that to see what we can do. So this is basically the main message coming from Trump administration, from Trump himself. Then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made a couple of statements about the war. During his first statement, he said that he hopes that the information that there are jihadists from Syria in Azerbaijan, he said that he hopes it will not be confirmed. But I think a day after this statement, there was an information in mass media that citing one of the highest, citing a high-level official from Pentagon, saying that the United States has an information that there are professional fighters, jihadists coming from Libya, Syrians actually, but coming from Libya, and they were transferred from Libya to Azerbaijan by Turkey, by Turkish air forces, because they are like under the influence of Turkey, and they're paid most probably by Turkey. And this was a statement coming from high-level officials, and it was not denied. So we have all the we have a right to believe this is true. And the third statement from Mike Pompeo, which was, I think it was like 3 days ago, he said that he hopes that Armenians will be able to protect themselves from what Azerbaijan is doing, which has a lot of messages, in fact, because first of all, he's saying that he knows who is the initiator.
Alert from your disk is almost full.
Who started war. This is the first. This is the first message. Second message was that Washington is not very helpful, and they are not having enough instruments or possibilities to be involved in this conflict and to help parties to be to do a ceasefire. I think this was another message coming from Washington, D.C. But at the same time, other messages are coming from Washington, D.C. saying that the United States is supporting Moscow in its diplomatic efforts, which means that there's a trust from Washington towards Moscow, and Washington is actually helping Moscow to bring parties into negotiation table. And this is the second important thing I wanted to mention. And as you know, that our Armenia's foreign minister will be traveling to Washington, D.C. I think it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not sure about the Azerbaijani foreign minister, if he will be traveling to D.C., but I know that our foreign minister, Zoran Sargsyan, will hold a meeting with State Secretary Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and if Azerbaijani counterpart is not going to Washington, D.C., I suppose this is not going to be three-party talks. This is going to be just bilateral talks between Armenian and U.S. officials. So if Azerbaijani foreign minister is not traveling, that means that there are no hopes for the ceasefire. You know that it was obvious that parties. It's obvious that twice there was a Russian initiative once and French initiative for the second time. These two superpowers tried to bring two parties to negotiations, and actually we know that Azerbaijan violated the ceasefire, which happened twice actually, and I think that even after coming back from Washington, even if Aramov goes to Washington after coming back, they will violate it again. So I don't have hope that the ceasefire will take place as long as Azerbaijan and Turkey are so aggressive. And basically, I think the superpowers know very well what is happening on the ground. They have enough information and enough analysis to realize what's happening, who is doing what, who started this process, who's supporting who, are there any jihadists in Azerbaijan. I think the superpowers have all their services, intelligence information to have very accurate information on what's happening on the ground. So that's basically what we have for this moment. And international media coverage is also, I think there are a lot of articles all around, especially in American newspapers such as New York Times, Washington Post, The Hill, etc. So basically, all the messages are almost the same. Everybody understands that Armenia didn't have any reason to start this war, and Armenia is just protecting Nagorno-Karabakh. Is protecting its territory. Armenia is protecting its territory, and everybody I think knows that this war was started by Azerbaijan with a big support coming from its ally Turkey. This is basically all I wanted to say. But if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much for your words. I think there's a first.
May I ask a question, if I may? It's Suren speaking.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Hi, friends. Very nice to meet so many friends here. Suren, I was reading the news about the political situation in Middle East. So you were speaking about the jihadists, and I saw that yesterday Turkey started to put out its militaries from some regions of Idlib. And it seems like it's a parallel situation when there is war in Nagorno-Karabakh, where Turkey has a very big role and influence on Azerbaijani forces. And from the other side, they are making some positions in the Idlib. I just want to ask you if in America, if the political parties there or experts see some connection between these two wars, because this influence of jihadists is, I can say it's very clear. But other political connections, maybe some kind of trade between geopolitical forces who has influence in Middle East and our region.
I think it's obvious for everybody that wherever Turkey goes, with military campaign or whatever, they're usually taking their jihadists there. So they're in Syria, they're in Libya, they're now in Nagorno-Karabakh. If you have Turkish involvement, you have jihadists, you have terrorist groups, you have all these professional fighters from Syria and Turkey are just spreading them around the world, actually, because if they're here today, they will appear in Iran or in Russia tomorrow from Azerbaijan. And I think it's obvious for everybody that this is a challenge for international security and for everybody. I think the American establishment understand that, and unfortunately, Americans are not very active recently in this region, the South Caucasus region. By saying recently, I don't mean only Trump administration, but I also mean Obama administration, because within the last most probably 10 years, the US was not very active in South Caucasus region, so they lost all the influence here. And because of that, now they're not having all the instruments to somehow have an influence here, which is very hard for Washington to realize, but we have what we have. And one more thing that I wanted to mention, that there were two fighter jets. There's a picture of two fighter jets in Ganja International Airport in Azerbaijan. These two fighters belong to Turkey, but according to the American law, when the United States is selling arms to a country, this country is not allowed to transfer it to a third country. And this is not the first time that Turkey is doing that, because they did the same in Syria. And there was a big scandal in the United States because it appeared that the American arms are all of a sudden in Syria, and it's a violation of the US law. And I think Turkey is doing the same once again. So they are transferring their military equipment they bought from the United States. They're transferring to the third countries, which is creating a total mess in all the regions. So I suppose Turkey is responsible for what is happening as much as Azerbaijan is responsible.
Thank you very much. There are two questions from the participants. I'm going to read the first one out loud. It's from David Matevosian. He's asking, it is obvious that Russia and Turkey are willing to cooperate with each other to decrease the US influence in the Middle East. Their cooperation in Syria is the best example. Is this template possible in the South Caucasus?
It's really very hard to say if Turkey and Russia could be partners in the South Caucasus, because historically they've never been partners in the South Caucasus, never. There were about 13 or 14 wars between Turkey and Russia, and in all of them Russia won. That's not the case, but usually there was the war for the influence, including South Caucasus region, which is very important region for both parties, for Turkey and for Russia. I don't think they can cooperate here. Well, they might have some cooperation in Syria against mutual targets, I would say. But in fact, I don't think that they have mutual targets here, and they have mutual problems here to solve. So I suppose this kind of cooperation between Russia and Turkey is not possible.
Thank you for this answer.
Sure.
Now I'm going to read out the second question from our participant Hovsep Babayan. Mr. Sargsyan, thank you for your speech. You mentioned the US elections as an element of US passiveness in this context. Don't you think that this policy is very typical for Trump-era isolationism, which will continue if Trump gets elected?
This is one of the elements. That's right. That's the right thing to say. This is one of the elements. Trump changed the U.S. foreign policy in a very interesting way. The U.S. used to be very, very much involved, like everywhere around the world. Then he came and said that I'm not going to be involved in every corner, in every conflict, so I'm not interested in that, and I have some other priorities for myself and for my administration. Definitely, if Trump is re-elected on November 3, the U.S. foreign policy will remain more or less the same. No major shifts. I see no major shifts are possible here. And if Biden wins, that could change something. That could change something in U.S. foreign policy, and it will be more or less closer to what Obama administration had as priority in foreign policy of the United States. But that is true that the Trump policy towards the region is not very active. But the same with Obama. As I told already, within the last 10 years, U.S. was not very active in our region, not in economy, not in political, not from political point of view, not in military field. I mean, there was no very deep and comprehensive involvement in our region. And this is not typical for only Trump, but also Obama was not very active here too.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there another question from our participants? If not, I want to thank you for being here, for your time, for sharing your perspective. And I guess as the founder of the Armenian Center for American Studies, it was very interesting to hear your opinions.